Wyatt Henson from Westside Church of Christ in Russellville. The verse I was given was James 5, 1 through 11. Good morning, church. First of all, God bless America. But my question is, what are you investing in? Where do you invest your money? Where are your thoughts at? What's your heart in? Where do you put your time? Many of you are investing in your futures, thinking about college and jobs. For example, there's my older brother who, like many of you, is going to college, and because of that, he invested time, work, and money. And for the things we look to and value, we do the same. So let's say you wanted more money, and you had people that worked for you. Well, you could hold back the money they worked for, and keep it for yourself, and take advantage of them, in doing so condemning them to poverty, slavery, and death. Come now, you rich, weep and howl for the miseries that are coming upon you. Your riches have rotted you, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver have corroded, and their corrosion will be evidence against you, and will eat your flesh like fire. You have laid up treasures in the last days. Behold, the wages of the laborers who mowed your fields, which you kept back by fraud, are crying out against you. And the cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord of hosts. You have lived on earth in luxury and in self-indulgence. You have fattened your hearts in the day of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered the righteous person. He does not resist you. Woo, yeah, we got him, right? Those wicked rich, they got what they deserved. Well, yes, this is true, but are we not also wealthy? Woe to you who stores up for themselves that they can be comfortable and live long lives. For in this we become like the rich fool. And he told them a parable, saying, the land of a rich man produced plentifully. And he thought to himself, what shall I do? I have nowhere to store my crops. And he said, I will do this. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and goods. And I will say to my soul, soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry. For God said to him, fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. So let us not be like the rich. The rich hoard their things and keep it for themselves, cheating and hurting others for money and possessions and comfort. May it never be so that we live as the rich, for because of them, they are the poor and oppressed, who get the court used against them by fraud, and where the wealthy can take everything from them just like that. So what should the rich do? Well, James would say all that there's to do is weep and howl for your wicked ways, because they live for their earthly passions and desires. But we as the church will live differently. And if this is how we've lived, we must turn our eyes upon eternity, loving our neighbors, taking care of the widows and the orphans, helping those who are suffering. So what about those who are suffering? What should they do? Be patient, therefore, brothers, until the coming of the Lord. See how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, being patient about it until it receives the early and late rains. You also, be patient. Establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is at hand. Do not grumble against one another, brothers, so that you may not be judged. Behold, the judge is standing at the door as an example of suffering and patience. Brothers, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. Behold, we consider those blessed who remain steadfast. And you have heard of the steadfastness of Job, and you have seen the purpose of the Lord, how the Lord is compassionate and merciful. So what should those who are wealthy do? Whether little wealth or much, we have to stop living for our own pleasures and desires and start living for God's. And those who are suffering should know that the Lord of heaven's armies has heard your cry and fights for you. The rich boast in their possessions, but their possessions will turn on them, rotting them and taking away at their flesh. Their wealth is going to testify against them. But if you remain steadfast in God, even in your suffering, there will be a reward greater than anything that man could ever boast in. And as James says in James chapter 1, these earthly trials will produce steadfastness. Therefore he says, be as Job and the prophets who endured immense trials and suffering. And I love this next illustration of the